We are doing our first live ever, actually. So I'm really hoping this lines up properly on there.
Right.
So this is part of Tea Time with Jen. This is going to be episode number 2, and I have a special guest with me. I have SL West, who is a new author. Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Uh, you don't mind if I call you by your actual first name, correct?
Not at all.
Okay. So Sharon and I have known each other for 30,
Last
30
year.
something years, something like
Mhm.
that. So thank you for coming on and doing this with me. And since we're doing tea time with Jen, before we get in totally into introductions and get into the subject, what are you drinking this morning or afternoon?
Right. I think it's morning for you and afternoon for me.
Yeah.
This is cinnamon apple tea.
Ooh, that sounds
Right.
good.
Smells
Today I
amazing.
did something totally different. I actually have a cinnamon apple, so that makes me want to make it later.
Right.
Um, I've been taking the black toasted coconut with almond bark. It's a black tea,
Okay.
and I
hmm
make it hot, and then I cool it down, and I don't add any sweetener or anything to it. I just have it as iced tea.
Yeah. This one doesn't have sweetener either. That sounds good.
It's so good. I love all the teas. Emily and I were talking last tea time with Jen about how adventurous I am with teas and how you are as well. My best friend is. And so we definitely love teas.
Yeah.
So
I feel
actually, you
like,
mentioned that. Oh, go
huh?
ahead.
I was going to say, I feel like I've lost my tea passion and I'm getting back into it because coffee detoured me. Well, I should say creamer with some coffee detoured me. And
Yeah,
so
I feel you
back,
on that. I'm definitely coffee obsessed. Um, do you know what though? As I found out, I can't drink my creamer anymore. I've been drinking way more tea.
good. Yeah, I'm trying to get
So
back to the tea. I have a whole bunch of it. And I'm like, I need to drink that.
yes. So you are an author. You recently published your first book. Let's talk a little bit about that. Your first book is called
Freedom Rising, which I realized I didn't grab one from up here.
I
Easy.
Have One.
You get to look at me while I stand. And now I do too.
Oh, yours is the right direction. You're on it. Why is mine the opposite direction?
Yours is the right direction on my end. So it just looks
Oh, that's
backwards to each
funny.
of us. Mhm.
So, this has been a work in progress for many years, and I love it. Because I've been along for that journey. And I'm going to tell people a little bit about you. I'm just going to read your about the author
Okay.
in here. It says S.L. West has always loved being transported to different worlds and experiencing different cultures through the written word. She is a firefighter's wife, mom of 3, and loves God with her whole heart. When she is not taking care of her family, her sassy animals, or finishing a home improvement project, you will find her cuddled up with a blanket, a cup of tea, and a good book. I was like, oh, perfect for tea time with Jen. So tell us a little bit about the storyline um, of the book.
Okay. So Freedom Rising, you follow the main character, Samantha Wells, or you'll come to find out Sam. She is she lives during a time that's a post-apocalyptic dystopian world after what we know today has been wiped out. And so this is after that and how the world survived, the surviving people, how they came together. And she lives in a time where the government is in full control. You think like The Giver, it's like that, full, complete control. And then always feeling like something's wrong with her because she can't trust the system, can't trust the government that everything they're doing is for their good, for the survival of human race and just recovering. This is about 100 or so years after. And so she is turning 18 at the beginning of the book. We open up on her 18th birthday, and that is a milestone, a major milestone for the people who survived, which Sam falls under the simpleton category. The order is made up of the elite. Well, I should say the elite is made up. Let me think about that for a second. It's the elite and the sovereigns that make up the order. So the elite plan the lives of the simpletons, and the order enforces them. That's like the corrupt military.
Mhm.
So Sam turns 18 and she is supposed to marry somebody that is chosen for her by the elite. And she has no say in it whatsoever, as every aspect of her life is. You follow the life of Sam. You follow the life of this man that she's forced to marry. And then the twists and turns that come along the way. Of course, there's loss, there's love, there's
There's a
surprises.
lot. It's so fun because it really gets you emotionally connected to the characters. I think you did a really good job with that.
Thanks. Yeah, well, I'm a very picky reader. I used to hate reading until I was about 12. And then one of my older sisters introduced me to Mark of the Lion series by Francine Rivers. And that's when I realized I didn't hate reading. I just hadn't found the reading that I loved yet. So, being a picky reader, I want to be immersed in the story and the characters and the feelings. So, that's what I strive to do. I want my readers to live in my world. I want them to experience what my characters experience, and I want them to be mad at me at times. I want them to be happy. I want them to cry. I want them to feel it all. So,
Yeah, you did a really, really good job with that. And I feel like my daughter's kind of like that. Like I was always a reader. I've always, always been a reader. Emily, not so much. It was like pulling teeth to get her to read. She
right,
didn't mind if we read her Christmas stories or kids' books or things like that, but she didn't want to do it herself. And just this last year, she's finally, like the last 6 months, she has finally started like really wanting to read. And I'm like,
right.
oh, she found what captivated her.
Good. And that's what's important. Is finding what captivates you because everybody has their own flavor. That's what I try to tell my readers. And when I spoke with the high schoolers, I said, some of you might not have enjoyed the book, which is perfectly fine
Yep.
because we all have our own flavors just as much as our own style and clothes, our own flavors and food and movies. It doesn't stop with books. There's plenty of highly successful books and artists out there that I've tried to read and I'm like, this isn't my cup of tea.
Right. No, definitely, absolutely. And I feel like as the years go by, kind of your interest and the type of books you read kind of shifts and changes as you grow and you have more life experiences. Um, what's interesting, so without talking politics, um, Freedom Rising is I've seen some of your reviews and I felt the same way a little bit, where if you apply some of the principles to some of the things going on today, it almost feels like because it just got released now, that it was based on the principles of now. Whereas you started this book years and years and years ago and had your storyline years and years ago.
Right.
And it's interesting to me how the desire for freedom and the desire um, it's really just the freedom to live, the freedom to love, the freedom to um, do all these things. It doesn't matter what time frame, it doesn't matter what country, really, it doesn't matter any of that. It's a thing that's so ingrained into all of us, and I think you captured it extremely well in here, especially the end. Do not read the last page. If you are one of those people who grab a book, if you decide to get Freedom Rising and you like to grab a book and read the last page and see if
Don't
you
do
like
it.
it, don't do it. It's a really good
Nope.
last page, but don't do it.
I know. I remember when I wrote that. So when this came to me, I had the concept of the beginning. Well, I knew the beginning and how I wanted to end, the concept of the middle, but
Mhm.
not knowing how that would translate as I wrote. Oh my gosh, best experience ever was the story came to life and it wrote itself. Yeah, I'm the author, but I'm writing it and I'm like, oh my gosh, I need another character. Oh my gosh, that happened? How could that happen? Like it took me
Right.
on a ride as I'm writing it. And so when I got to that point, so I thought this would be a one book series. Uh, It's going to be like 3 books with probably a couple novellas in there. But when I got to the end, I remember writing it and just these goosebumps and just going, oh wow, that was awesome. I
Yeah.
love it.
I literally read the last page again right now, going, should I read the last page? And no, I won't. I can't. I was like, oh, it's too good. I'm not going to do it.
Right.
So, Okay, so you started this. Oh, wait. So my channel's Intentionally Living with the
Right.
Padilla Family Homestead. And you and I have talked before about intentionally living. And when I go, I want you to come on, and you're like, I don't feel like I do it the same way you do, and you don't. We intentionally live differently, and I think that's something to capture. And I
Right.
think that's something that's important to talk about is we all have different avenues where we choose to um, intentionally do something.
Right.
And an avenue that I really feel like you did extremely well in is chasing your dreams. Not even chasing your dreams, it's making your dreams come true because you caught it and you published it. Like you did it. And so, how long of a process was this? When did the first idea pop into your head?
Yeah. When I'm asked that, I'm like, that's not a simple answer. So
No.
this book began about 7, 8 years ago. It took, I can't even say it took a year to write or 6 months, but most of it was done 7 or 8 years ago. And then I put it aside because, as you know, one of my kiddos had a lot of health problems that required my full attention. My family has always and will always come first. So this book was conceived, written, and then set aside to focus on my kiddo. And then a couple years ago, when his health was, on track, doing good, we had answers. Um, I picked it back up, finished it, smoothed it out, and submitted it to my publishers. So, I mean, technically it's been in the works 7, 8 years, but all in all, if we include writing, editing, copyright, cover, I'd say a total of a year tops. But my editors were also, excuse me, not my editors, my publishers were also new, Pigpen Publishing. And so that's been a fun experience learning and growing with them. So,
Right. Well,
yeah,
and that's another aspect of choosing something intentionally. You chose publishers purposely who were newer publishers. And tell us a little bit about why you chose Pigpen. And yeah,
yeah. So I actually worked with one of their daughters at the time I was working at a bank. Still love that girl. But she was telling me about how her mom and aunt had written a children's book and did not like what they were finding as far as publishing companies go. And so they had always had a dream to write a book and then to open their own publishing company. So when they were looking for a publisher, they decided, why wait on that other dream? We're not liking what we're finding. Let's go ahead and start this company. So when I submitted my manuscript, I was a nervous wreck because it's your baby. You poured literally sweat, blood, tears, emotions, all of it into it. Yeah. A little bit of your sanity as well. But I met them in person. They wrote that book, Faithful Furry Friends, which is a testament to who they are, and just this desire to create a company, a publishing company that allows the author to hold their rights. They don't want to take them. They want you to maintain them. Their goal is to just help you get your story out there into other people's hands for them to enjoy and experience. And that was
right,
key to me. The whole process is still very new to me. And I had no idea where to start. It felt very overwhelming. So here were these sisters who wanted to come alongside me and help me. But first and foremost, they had to like my book because they said they wanted to maintain a smaller size publishing company so they can invest more of themselves into their authors. So it's
right.
not like it was a shoe in. It was, hey, here's an opportunity, show us what you have. And then when I gave them my book and they came back to me, it was like, let's say within a month, and they loved it. They're like, "We love your story. Oh my gosh, we couldn't believe you did this. What happens next?" And that was a surreal moment because yeah, you read it, my sisters read it, but you're all family, and I always value honest opinions. But
Hmm.
here are some strangers who have a business, and whether or not my book is good enough to make that business succeed. And they
Right,
said they loved it. We have big dreams for it, and it's being patient and waiting for reaching those stars, but one step at a time. So,
right. They weren't emotionally invested the same way, and they weren't reading it in your voice like some of us do.
right.
So, um, Okay,
Very
so I think that's amazing that you chose um you chose the company that you did and that you wrote the story that you did. Um, you were able to captivate so many emotions, so many real life things. Um, I'm just gonna say, so I've read it before it came out. I've read different versions of it, and so sometimes in my head I get confused on what was in a previous version and what
right,
was is in the the final version.
right.
But the farting thing, I love that. It's so
You brought that
real,
up,
and
did you?
I did.
I
It's
know.
so real, and it's so and you're gonna have to read the book to find out what I'm talking about, but
Right. Well, because I like realism. Like the same thing with relationships. My favorite genres are historical fiction and dystopian, right?
but
Of course, there has to be a love story in there. I need my love story. And so when I read these other books that I thoroughly enjoy, some of them are more realistic and others it's like you don't fall madly in love in 3 days, no matter how harsh the environment around you. Yes, hardships force you to grow closer faster, but in
right,
3 days, it's just so unrealistic to me. So I needed a more natural development of that relationship. I needed a challenging, like, I don't really feel this way. Why do I want this person? Like it
right,
doesn't just naturally happen. You question it. And then you doubt yourself. You doubt them. You're vulnerable in your own securities. Like everything needed to be realistic. And a lot of it was parts of me. I was very
right,
open about that. You obviously see that more than somebody who doesn't know me. And that's not just about Sam's curly hair, right? This thing she struggles with or other people struggle with. There's a lot
right,
of me poured into various characters, as well as you see attributes of my kids or my friends and people, because that's a lot of writing. Yeah, you're creating, but you're also pouring yourself and others into that. So,
yep. At any point, did you want to give up?
absolutely. The Giver was the biggest one because you and I went and watched the movie. And I was so mad because I hadn't read the book and I was like, somebody wrote my story, my concept of this complete utter control with zero freedoms from the time you get up and go to bed, like somebody took it. Of course, I was in my own world as a stay-at-home mom. So yeah. I was telling one of my sisters this and she gave me the kick in the pants that I needed. And she just said, every story has been told. It's a matter of perspective and the author that's writing it. So don't you dare quit. You keep
Yep,
writing it and you finish it. I was like, okay. So I did.
I love it. I'm really glad that you did, and I think that that is something that I think it's surreal sometimes. It's like that you're an author, you know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
And I think as a mom, I think that that is awesome that you are modeling how to um, dream, number one, how to want to create something, want to do something, have no idea how to do it, and chase it and do it and make it come true. And I think that's a great, great, great example. Um, is there anything else you would like to share regarding Freedom Rising?
I mean, I'm
Are you
working
ready
on
to move
book
on to the
two.
next?
I've been
I'm
working
glad
on book
you
two.
have
Yeah.
to. I know you don't want to
Yeah.
give out spoilers.
No,
I wanted to ask for spoilers, but I know
no.
you're not giving any spoilers.
I'm very, very close lipped about that. So
I'm not
um,
even going to read book two before it comes out, am I?
probably not. I don't know. I don't know. You're part of my ARC team, like my preview readers, so you might be stuck doing it. Well, you,
I'm
my
excited.
sisters,
I want to know,
you're
I
people I
want to
can
know more
trust
of
to
what
give me
comes
honest.
next.
I can trust you to give me honest feedback. Like, yeah, because you've
Right,
even done that. Like, I don't know about this scene, or maybe you need more here or there. And
right,
that's even for my readers in reviews. I want honesty. That's
right.
huge to me, just in my life in general. Um, yeah. I don't know. I can't think of
Awesome.
anything else to
Okay. So I know I wanted to touch on a couple of other things that I feel like that you've done very intentionally. That is something that started for you different than me per se, because my health journey started uh, more recently. I was definitely more of the Mountain Dew and French fry girl many years ago. But you had some things happen, like you talked about when you were taking the break from the book and so forth,
Mhm.
um, with raising kids with some pretty severe allergies. And you have actually, because of some of the stuff that you have done and being intentional about, we're actually, I believe, able to reverse some of that. Um, and I think those are some big things. And being a mom, being a stay-at-home mom, a fire wife, so by yourself half the time. Obviously, your husband's a support all the time, but he's a firefighter, and so that does require you doing some of the stuff on your own.
Right.
And how, what's some of the allergies that you want to talk about, and some of the ways that you had to get creative and how you were able to make that work for you guys and kind of, yeah,
Right.
dive into that a little.
Um, oh goodness. Well, my kiddo with all the health issues at the time, he always struggled with asthma and then behavioral things that were in question about high functioning autism. And at the time, we were in California when the peak started, and there was such a huge backup as availability for testing for
Mhm.
care. It was like years. And we had already been praying and talking about moving out of state, where my parents relocated with my three siblings. And then a year later, my brother had followed. And I always thought that was nuts because my husband still works for the state of California. There's no way we're leaving until he retires. Well, it was one very tough fire season where he was gone a lot. And I was quite frankly losing my mind. I was overwhelmed. And I had this kiddo that emotionally just needed more than I could give. And we were just stuck. And so my parents helped fly the kids and I out. And when I came out to Arkansas, it was instant home, Northwest Arkansas. Instantly felt like home. And I did not understand that because I was born and raised in California. It's like northern, but central northern, just north of Sacramento, in the foothills. And so that was bizarre to me. Why would this place, we're talking driving from the airport to my parents' house, which is about a 40-minute drive. And that drive just felt like a breath of fresh air and it felt like home. And I remember calling Ryan and telling him, this is really bizarre. I think we really need to pray about this. And so we spent the next year praying and preparing to move our family cross country pretty much and start all
Mhm.
over. But what I didn't realize, and that God was moving in the background, was when we got here, it was immediate pediatrician. Okay, let's do this. Immediate testing. I didn't have to wait even a year. And excuse me, and my child was able to be seen by the professionals that he needed to be seen by. Excuse me,
Mhm.
who's able to be tested. We got a soft no, which means that he passed the test, but it doesn't mean that he doesn't have tendencies. It doesn't mean that some way down the road it could be a yes. It just meant, hey, we're going to approach it this way, as some of it will be similar to those that had a yes. That's what they mean by a soft no. So things that would naturally come to us as in, oh, okay, maybe that's a bit of an overreaction, or okay, maybe this is the right way to respond, or instead of feeling like being wronged all the time, it's perception, right? Perception and processing.
Right.
So a lot of that was taught consistently over and over and over until it stuck. But during that time, there was a lot of that behavioral outburst and emotional stuff that we were contending with. And then on top of that, there was the asthma and this poor health. And so it was about 1, 2, 3 years, 3 or 4 years when we were here, that his asthma and that part of his health took a drastic turn. And we were seeing one allergist at the time and then changed allergists. And that woman,
For the
I mean,
worse or for the better?
his health took a turn for the worse. And so we ended up leaving one allergist to another one, and that's Tina Merritt. I will give her a shout out because right
That's your
away,
new one?
yeah, our new allergist, right away, first appointment, telling her the backstory, telling her the things we faced, things he was going through, and just how we weren't figuring it out. And she knew. She's like, I think I know exactly what's wrong with him. Did the test and found out he had alpha gal, which is a disease that's carried in ticks, like Lyme disease is, but it's alpha gal. And what it does is it makes you allergic to anything and everything mammal, not just food. Mammal as in hooved animals. So you have your foods, you have your medicines, your lotions, your
Your
shampoos,
soaps. I had
everything.
no idea how much stuff
Yeah,
that mammal product was in. Like vitamins have
right.
it in so much stuff. It's
Because the
insane when you
gelatin,
start
the
looking at it.
bindings. Yeah. And so we had to learn that. We discovered emu, which is the poultry red meat, which I'm telling you is good stuff.
Pretty
It can
good.
be gamey, but it's good, it's lean, it's healthy, it's pricey. But worth it, when all you're eating is poultry, fish, and you're just craving that red meat.
You need
Um,
an evil farm.
yeah, no, I don't need one.
They're
I
evil.
just need
They look
the
evil, right?
food. Yeah. So we tackled that and learned lots about it. This last year, he tested negative for alpha gal, which not everybody does that. Not everybody's body will heal itself. But for now, he seems to be good. We've allowed those foods back in, let up on things, but I'm kind of wondering if we need to go back because he's been sick a lot again. And so it could be some of the foods that we're cheating on that's not necessarily mammal
Well,
related, but other
right.
allergies. And his system's just overloaded.
Well, it could be in moderation too, because I think sometimes, like, I can't even imagine if my husband couldn't have red meat.
Right.
And when you haven't had something for so long,
Yeah.
um, the desire to want to have it, but doing it more, I guess, less frequently, or I don't know.
And what was crazy about that, it didn't only improve his asthma. So he was on 2 inhalers a day. We had a rescue inhaler. We had zolprednisone on hand. We had an EpiPen, and we had um, albuterol, Zopanex, budesonide, the breathing treatments. And that was because prior to our move, he and my daughter caught swine flu. That's when swine flu was going around. My daughter was able to kick it in the butt at home with medication, whereas my son almost died from it. He was hospitalized and intubated, and oxygen was too heavy for his body to absorb that they had to do the heliox, which is the helium oxygen combination. And that's still a time that, I have to breathe through because I had to prepare myself to say goodbye to my son. And he was young. That was one of those really, really hard times. And so fast forward, we discovered this allergy, and he was down to only needing a rescue inhaler as needed. And then the EpiPen was no longer for asthma threat, it was for a food allergy reaction. And then his behavior was night and day. It was
Right.
amazing the difference. Yeah, it's insane.
It's so crazy. So I can't even imagine. Well, I can't imagine actually because
You're there.
I've been around for it. But I couldn't imagine right now, currently in my house, trying to live alpha gal free, like the
Right.
alpha gal diet. And because you said that you had to use different pans or there can be a reaction, right? For like cast iron, like you couldn't
Yeah,
even
yeah,
cook
you
that
can't.
stuff if you cooked it.
Yeah, you can't cross contaminate. With him, though, he was fortunate. So some people, the fumes of mammal food being cooked alone could send somebody into anaphylactic shock. He was not
Wow.
that. So we would still, like, if we're cooking on a barbecue, we could still separate, like one side for his food, or we pretty much all went on the same diet, to be
Yep.
honest. But when we did cheat, we'd separate or cook it at different times, use different utensils, use different plates or whatever we're putting it on. So a lot of times, even at family meals, we would leave stuff out in side dishes or create two separate dishes. Mashed potatoes. We'd have one made with real butter and real milk. The other one had your non-dairy items in it. So
So what are some of your favorite things that over that time? because you had to figure out some replacements, dairy replacements, period. I
Right.
mean, bacon. Uh,
Yes,
just
bacon.
bacon.
That was when I was
Um,
keyed on. Well, I mean, obviously turkey bacon. It took adjusting to, but then I started finding myself liking it more. Um, we went to rice milk. We found that was the best alternative. But then now
okay.
we found out my other kiddo is allergic to rice. So we're like, okay, let's figure out a replacement. Um, butter, we would go that one, we never found a replacement for cheese. Sorry, we tried, but it was just wasn't working. Butter, we
Cheese is
went
cheese.
to the Country Crock olive oil, or I can't think of the other one, the cholesterol one, Smart Balance. That's what it is. So we would do that instead.
Okay. And what do you do for your coffee?
Well, I mean, I do dairy-free
Can't imagine.
creamers, or a lot of the
Just dairy
powders
free.
are
Okay.
dairy-free. Yeah. Yeah.
What were some of your biggest places for inspiration or finding out of the box meals that went with the alpha-gal? Did you have any, or what was some of
Not
the
no, I was, like, floundering through it. I would try, and then I just could never get it right. Okay, I'm not a horrible cook, but I'm not, like, chef. I'm not a chef, so I would try. And then, of course, a lot of the recipes, they say you have to tweak or just replace this and that, and you try to do the ratios. Because on top of it, we were trying to go gluten-free. So we were living off of very limited options,
right,
or things that were unattainable because it was too expensive, because you live on a budget and we're a family of 5. So, some successes, I thought, like the ice creams I made, I liked, but my son was all, "That's not the real thing, gross," and turned his nose up to it. I'm like, "Fine then, you don't get ice cream." Like, "Listen,
you want
kid,
this
I'm
great
trying
bad
here."
enough?
Yeah, like, "Do I want the ice cream? Yes. Yes, I do, but we can't have it. Do I want the real bread? Yes, but we can't have it." I mean, we do now. We It's moderation.
Right.
Um, yeah, the biggest success was just discovering emu, to be honest. 'Cause we had our red meat substitute when we were craving, we could eat that. We could have roast again. We couldn't have roast.
I was really
Suddenly we
surprised
could.
because I had never had emu
Right.
before, and I was really surprised at how it just tastes like red meat. Like
Right. Right.
it's not.
It
I
has
don't
a
know.
little
I don't
gamey,
know.
certain cuts have a little gamey
Mhm.
flavor to it, but there's not a lot of them. You know, you can pick different cuts, but yeah, it's pretty good.
That's good.
Yeah.
Okay, so because I figured it's probably kind of similar to what Emily and I had to do with her gluten intolerance, where you take a regular recipe and you just switch things
I
as much
wish
as
it was that
possible,
simple, but it's not, because well, you get the flour that is the ratio, right?
right? The
That's
one for
supposed to
one.
be, yeah,
Hmm.
but I could
But you can't
never,
make bread with
ever.
that,
No, it's so dense and just heavy, and and it gets worse when you try to do it in a bread machine. It's You don't get to do it in a bread machine. It's
did you
no.
ever? I don't think you were here for it when we tried to make a loaf of bread with the same recipe that I did the 4 ingredient
No, but
bread
I
with
didn't
the
have to be,
yeast.
I did that myself too. It's
I was like hitting it on things and it didn't dent. It didn't do nothing.
it's like it's rock hard, like, yeah, it's bad. Oh my gosh, one time I was doing my feet loaf, my creepy
Oh
meatloaf
yeah,
that's shaped like a foot? Y'all should look it up. It's very fun to make. So, um, I decided one night, I don't know why, I felt like I would be a chef. Remember, I'm not a chef. I just wanted to be. So I made these meatloaf, 2 of them, and then looked up these fun little, they were spider breads that you look like a spider in the middle, you cut out and fill with marinara, and the legs were like breadsticks. And I spent a long time from scratch making all this, and they were adorable. They're supposed to be this yummy, garlicky butter. Anyways, you pull out the legs, you dip it, and you eat it. And I'm like, okay, that was a very anticlimactic, because I did gluten free. And it was just not. It looked so yummy, and then you get into it, and it was not. Did not hit the spot at
yeah.
all.
That is something that Emily wants to conquer this winter.
Mhm.
She has really found that her body feels just she doesn't get any of the skin stuff really that much anymore. If
Right.
she eats gluten after going without it for so long, and then now she can eat it sometimes,
Mhm.
but the bloating, the just overall feeling, she feels way better when she does gluten free. So she really wants to learn how to make gluten free bread. So we're going to conquer that, I hope,
Right.
this winter. Um, she does better with sourdough when she does decide to have gluten. If it's
Right.
sourdough, she does do better with it, and spelt flour. But man, we're gonna try. We're gonna try. If we
Telling you,
conquer it, I'll let you know.
you gotta hit up our friend. She's been doing it for years for her
Oh
kids with
yeah,
celiac and stuff.
yeah. I'll have to look at the.
Yeah.
I'll have to message her about that one.
You know who you are.
Um, so we're coming up on the holidays, and I wanted to see if there's any traditions that you guys do that you wanted to from like early, if there's any that were early on before you had kids, you're like, I really want to do this with my kids, or like I want to make this a family tradition, or things that you've added along the way since we're coming into holidays, and we'll end out with that.
Right. I mean, I tried. Nothing really stuck as far as something new. We have the elf on the shelf, of course, and everyone's too old now, but it's just still fun.
Oh yeah.
Those
We
panic moments of I forgot to move her. So you get creative or last minute just like I would throw her in my robe and walk around and be like, I don't know where she's at. Everybody look for her. And really had her tucked away into like a thrower somewhere. Um,
Your I
that's what
remember your elf on the shelf needing a lot of freezer time to
if we touched her. She had to
bring back.
recharge her magic.
Yeah, that
Mhm.
was something that I remember, I think probably a couple weeks out of the season.
Right, right. Well, I mean, yeah, that was fun, but some of the old traditions would have been like looking at Christmas lights. I would
Mhm.
make them get in the car and we'd drive around. They liked it until they were older and it was dumb. Putting a Christmas tree up and we'd all put our own ornaments on. So we that's a tradition where we each got our own ornament when they were babies and then I added later. Um
Your daughter
that-
still likes doing lights though, right? Does she like doing lights?
it's a hit and miss.
Hit
Okay,
miss?
my
Okay.
kids are
So I'm
13,
wondering if that's
15, and
more of
17
a
again.
boy girl thing. Because Em still likes Emily still likes
Well,
the
yeah.
light.
You know that ours was never even it wasn't the typical either holiday. We would plan it around when Ryan was available. So we
Right.
would write letters to Santa and say, "Hey, can you come early to our house so we can have Christmas with our dad?" And that's what a lot of fire families do. I would imagine a lot of first responders or even military. You have to get creative because it's about the time you have together.
Right. Um So my mom actually commented on here and she brought up one that was from our childhood that I'll share, and it's the Traveling Kings. And we would set up the nativity,
Mm.
and the entire month, I think it was the entire month. I don't remember now. It's either the entire month or a couple weeks or whatever. They would
Crystal
be
helmet.
traveling through the house. They would end up in all random parts of the house until they got to the manger. And, of course, that included reading scripture and going through,
Right.
the story of Christ's birth and so forth. But that's what the Traveling Kings is.
That's a cool one. Yeah. Yeah.
It
I
was
like
fun.
that.
It was fun. Okay, well, thank you so much for joining me on our second episode of Tea Time with Jen. I'm sure we will have you back on here talking about all other shenanigans. Maybe when I think you're coming out for a visit eventually here, hopefully. Um,
January. Yeah.
yeah, so hopefully we will maybe get one in person, which will be fun. Um, but thank you for joining us, and anybody who is watching, thank you for watching. I will leave Sharon's SLS information in the description of this video. We were planning on doing this the fall next week, but we had some scheduling conflicts, so we ended up doing it early this week. So it'll be a few weeks before we have another Tea Time with Jen. So make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell. And we hope you have a great Thanksgiving.
Well, thank you.